Hello, I'm Art Carlson, Chairman of the St. Luke's 75th Anniversary Historical Committee. It is Tuesday, September 26, 1989, and this is the third in a series of 3 potluck suppers followed by a video presentation to celebrate the long and rich history of St. Luke's Lutheran Church. In our first tape, we interviewed and reminisced with early members of the congregation, while our second tape focused on the history of the church and the various aspects and beauty of our building. In this, the third tape, we will take a look at the most unusual organization of our church, the St. Luke's Bottle Band. This group has had a profound influence on our music program and has involved many members over its 10-year history. Not only those who play before us, but also those, like myself, who help provide the group with new instruments to play. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this most fascinating story, which we call Behind the Scenes with the Bottle Band.
Let the drum roll out. You're climbing tall. While the people shout, hey, strike up the band. Hear the bottles fall, calling one and all to another show. Strike up the band. Clap your hands and treat, give a cheer. It's our 10th anniversary year, and we're glad that you all could be here tonight. So enjoy the show. Come and hear us blow. It's time to strike up the band. Strike up the band.
Hello, I'm Glenn Cartwright, and I'd like to welcome you to Behind the Scenes with the Bottle Band. I've been coming to their concerts for some 10 years now, but I really don't know too much about how they operate and function. And in an effort to find out more about them, I've invited Professor Paul Phillips here this evening for an interview. Good evening, Paul.
Good evening, Glenn. Would you mind calling me Professor, please?
No problem, no problem.
Thank you.
Professor, tell me, why a bottle band at St. Luke's Church?
Well, in 1979, St. Luke's had an excellent music program. There were many choirs, several handbell groups, but I felt that something was missing. And I wasn't sure what that was until a group of musicians came here from St. Peter's Lutheran Church in Arlington Heights and gave a concert playing on bottles. And I knew at that time that what we needed here was a bottle band. So with the help of Val Shields, who was the organist at that time, I organized a small group of musicians, and we gave our first concert on June 2nd of 1979. Now at that time we did not have our own show. We were simply part of a variety show held here at the church. We were the last act, and we did 3 songs. And I have some stills here from that show I'd like to present to the audience right now.
Very good.
This is a photograph of the very first performance of the Bottle Band. You can see that our setup was a lot simpler 10 years ago. Back then we had only 1 row of tables, whereas today we use 3. And here we have 3 of our charter members, Gail Pearson on the right, Debbie Roman in the center, and Kyle Cartwright on the left. One of the first pieces that we played was Pop Goes the Weasel. And this is my sister, Jan Thompson, who was our first kazooist, along with our solo popper, Giuseppe Himzacecki. This picture was taken at one of our first rehearsals at the home of my mother, Doris Phillips. Debbie Roman is on the right, Kyle Cartwright in the center, Iris Olson is next to her, and Val Shields is at the end of the table. Our first rehearsals were a bit chaotic. When we performed in a concert, everyone sat at one table and faced the audience. But here, seated at the dining room table, the players had to look at each other during the rehearsal. This often resulted in a great deal of laughter, and it was particularly hard for Debbie Roman, who was on the extreme right, to keep from laughing since she had to sit directly across from Drake Ratcliffe. This is the first concert that the Bottle Band gave on its own. This performance took place on July 6th of 1980, and it took place in Fox Hall, and we call this our Salute to America. Our membership at this time had grown to 18, and I celebrated the occasion by wearing this Uncle Sam suit. We performed 10 numbers at this concert, including the Bottle Hymn of the Republic, and this also marked the debut of our longtime concert mistress, Eunice Pork and Beans. Eunice performed the world premiere of a piece I wrote called The Fantasy for Violin and Bottles. Eunice, of course, has since left the Bottle Band because she moved back to her home in Seattle, Washington. Because of the success of our first program, we began giving concerts up on the stage in the St. Luke's Gym. These are some programs and flyers from past concerts. In 1983, we entitled our show The Return of the Bottle Band. Then in 1984, we added a few new members and referred to ourselves as the New and Improved St. Luke's Bottle Band. In 1985, we started having a theme for each of our programs. Since this was the 300th anniversary of the birth of both Bach and Handel, we featured the music of both these composers and called our program Baroque Bottles. In 1986, we called our show Broadway Bottles, and we played many selections from the American Musical Theater. In 1987, we featured music from the Chicago Theater, called our show Big Band Bottles, and had the debut of a group of dancers known as the Bottlettes. Since 1988 was an Olympic year, we called our program The Wide World of Bottles and saluted the Olympics. And then this year, we performed our most requested numbers, called our show The Best of the Bottle Band, and gave a record-breaking 5 performances.
During the past 10 years, Professor, what have been the major changes in the way you operate in the Bottle Band?
Well, I think the most significant change has been in the kind of music that we play. The music has become much more complex. We use more bottles, and the pieces are vastly more complicated than they were originally. Also, we've made quite a number of changes in bottle technology. Originally, we used 16-ounce pop bottles, which were not connected in any way. Now you can see we have gone to the use of the Leinenkugel. That's the official bottle of the Bottle Band. And they are connected by epoxy. We put them together so that the bottles are one instrument. And it gives us a uniformity of sound, and also it allows us to play standing up and not relying on the tables that we have to use for the concerts here.
Tell me, Professor, why Leinenkugels? Are they easier to play, or do they sound better?
No, they were just on sale that week, so we decided to go with them. You know, Glenn, a lot of people want to know how we tune the bottles in the Bottle Band, how we get the various pitches, and I'd like to take a couple minutes to show you how that's done. This is Iris Olson, who plays second bottle in the Bottle Band. We have 4 sections, and she's in the second bottle section. And she has 5 bottles. Number 1 is an A, number 2 is an E, number 3 is a D, 4 is an E flat, and number 5 is an A flat. Now, before every concert and most of the rehearsals, I have to tune each bottle for each player. And so, Iris, if you would just blow your A. I have an electronic tuner here which I use, and this will match the pitch of the A with the needle here. Go ahead and blow, Iris. Again. You can see the needle isn't quite straight, so that means that she's a little bit out of tune. Try it one more time. Just a little bit flat. So I'll add a few drops. Tuning is very precise. A couple of drops either way can make a big difference. Try it again. There you go. The needle is just about straight. Try the E now. Oh, that's a little sharp, so I have to take a little bit of water out using a straw here. Okay, try it again. There, that's better. Okay, so I have to go through, you can see, and tune everybody's bottles, and there are 13 players. They have 5 bottles each, so that's 65 bottles, and you can see that's a very tedious chore before every concert.
Well, how often do you have to change the water in the bottles then?
Well, I sort of look into them, and when I see something brown or green floating around, I figure I'd better change it.
Yeah, I think I see something right here.
Oh.
This is what a piece of bottle band music looks like. As you can see, we do not use standard musical notation. In our system, an asterisk represents a rest, and each number indicates to the player which one of the 5 bottles is to be blown. I'd like to have the audience members pretend they are playing second bottle, and then we'll play this piece for you, which is The Entertainer Rag by Scott Joplin, and I'll indicate where we are in the music. Glenn, besides blowing on bottles, there are other ways of making musical sounds, and one of the techniques we've been using more often in the bottle band is that called plucking. I'd like to introduce to you now one of our solo pluckers, Dick Hayden. Dick has been plucking with the bottle band for a number of years. Dick, what's the most important thing about plucking?
Well, Professor, I would suspect it's the match of the instrument to the plucker, and in this case, I really prefer the Beck's Dark bottles because they particularly fit my 14 caliber finger here, and even amongst the Beck's bottles, this particular group of 5 seems to fit my finger the best. Another important aspect that I find very important is the technique itself. You can come in and just put your finger in each one of these and you don't get any sound out at all.
You have to kind of snap it.
Yeah, well, yes, you have to get a certain flair to it. This provides a nice sharp pop, and that's the most important part about popping bottles, plucking bottles here.
Ever get your finger caught in there, Dick?
Oh yes, in fact, if I have a very nasty scar here. That was from 1985 from a concert, and as a result, I've had to go and use some professional lubrication here in order to be able to make this work. And I've also found that this makes the plucking work much, much better. It gives a much better seal on the bottle, and it lets me increase my speed for those very, very fast lines.
That's very interesting. Then there's one more technique that I'd like to show you that we use to make sounds with a bottle, and that's by hitting them with a mallet like this. The instrument that you're looking at is called a bottlephone. It sounds something like a xylophone, and as you can see, it looks something like a bar. I'd like to introduce to you now our principal bottlephonist, who is also the director of music here and the director of the choirs and bell choirs, Mr. David Sherwin. David, can you tell us something about the problems that a bottlephonist faces?
Well, sure. The biggest problem, of course, is you have to hit the right bottle.
Mm-hmm.
If you hit the wrong one, and it gets the professor kind of upset.
Mm-hmm.
If you're only playing 2 bottles, it's not so bad. You can just keep 2 there and keep the wrist action pretty tight. But when you've got a whole row of them to keep track of, it can get kind of hairy, and I have to remember what bottle is where, and when there are many to play. You also have to watch out for these mallet heads. Sometimes they can fly off and
Yes, I know.
get somebody.
I've seen some of them fly by me occasionally.
You've got to keep the glue on those up too. Of course, the biggest challenge is sometimes we have to dance, and that can be
yes.
quite the
Like
challenge.
in the Dance of the Sugar Plum Fairy.
Yes,
Yes, yes.
David, did you know this was written on your contract when you signed it? St. Louis?
I had no idea this was coming. It was quite a surprise.
And another question, did you empty all these bottles?
No, I didn't. The director did.
This is one of the more spectacular costumes that we have used in bottle band concerts. This particular headpiece was used in a selection we call the 12 Bottles of Touring. About 2 years ago, we went on a world tour and we collected bottles from every country that we visited. And while we were in Canada, we picked up several Moosehead bottles, which we have used in this headpiece. I'd like to show you now the selection from the 12 Bottles of Touring. Here is the last verse of that piece.
On the 12th day of touring, we found in Canada.
It was tequila, 7 Jacobazzi,
6 bottles vodka.
The biggest source of costumes for our bottle band concerts is undoubtedly the basement of Doris Phillips, which we affectionately know as the warehouse because it contains so many items that she's collected over the past years, hats, dresses, and coats, things like that. However, occasionally we need a costume that she does not have, and that was the case with this particular one. I know it looks something like a straitjacket, but actually this is part of what we call the living Swedish flag. In 1988, we did a number called Hälsa dem der Himmel, which is a Swedish piece. And we had 4 women singing it, and they are dressed in what we call the living Swedish flag. And this is 1/4 of it. Each woman has a costume similar to this. And of course, we didn't have one, so Doris had to make it. Mom, can you tell us something about the problems involved in making it and also wearing it?
Sure, but Glenn, when you first push up my glasses, that's one of the problems of wearing it. We don't have access to our hands. However, this day when Paul came home with the idea of making the Swedish living flag, he said, "Do you think you can make it?" So I looked at it, and sure, I tried. So with the materials and the yardstick, I got the things put together. Then I had to try it on somebody to see if the flag lines were going to line up with the 3 pieces and the 1 vertical piece. And so I tried it on the men in my family, and it looked pretty good. So it worked out fine. But as I said, we can't walk, we can't scratch our noses, we can't blow our noses and all that kind of stuff. However, we had a good time with it. And I want to say, too, that for those who don't know the meaning of Hälsa dem der Himmel, that means hello to them at home. And that's what we were singing in our song. Okay?
Yeah, although I will point out that we did change some of the words a little bit for this particular version. Here now is the clip of Hälsa dem der Himmel.
After long astray samtal börjar björnvinneslag skadar flug som återgår mot lust, mot jord.
Glenn, bottle band concerts are known not only for the unusual music, but also for the unusual props that we have in our shows. And what you're looking at now is the canon that we used for the 1812 overture that we performed last spring. We tried to get the church council to let us use real cannons, but they didn't like that idea, so we then thought about using champagne bottles, but it was too hard to pop them in time to the music. So we came up with what we call our bottle cannon. You can see it's a cannon that's designed in the shape of a bottle. And the man that made this cannon is the same fellow who does a lot of our props, Mr. Bert Olson. And Bert, I'd like you to tell us a little bit about how you designed this cannon and how it works.
Sure, Paul. This is, the principle is exactly like an old-fashioned pop gun. And in order to get multiple shots, we have multiple barrels. And we just put in an ordinary cork. We found that the cork went too fast, so we put a ribbon in to slow it down for a better visual effect. And we just put the cork in the barrel, and this will be fired with a tire pump. And I'll fire that one, and
okay, now normally this would go inside the cannon, right? Inside there?
Yeah, the cannon barrel is what gives it the deep reverberating effect.
But we'll show them how it's done outside of the cannon.
Yeah, here we go.
Ready? Ooh, that's really loud. That's great. Glenn, now I'm going to introduce to you somebody that really needs no introduction, I'm sure, because he is your son. This is Gary Cartwright, who has been in the bottle band a number of years and has designed all of the sets that we use in our shows. I think Gary's greatest achievement occurred in 1986 when he designed the set for our production of the musical Bottles, which of course was very similar to the musical Cats because they were both written by the same composer. In Bottles, you may recall, toward the end of the show, the Blue Nun ascends into bottle heaven to be recycled. And for this particular part, Gary designed a giant six-pack for her to ascend up to the top of the stage. What I'd like to do now is show a clip of that performance, and Gary can describe what's going on.
Here I am as Logan David. I'm going to select the bottle that's going to go up in the six-pack. You can see the six-pack in the background there. I'm going to pick Doris. The trick here is that the six-pack has to be as light as possible. We tried to fly Doris, but just didn't work. It's made out of cardboard and 1x2s, and in order to do this, we had to make a cardboard cutout of Doris, and that'll be placed in there while Perrier and Moosehead are making Google eyes at each other. You can sort of see the cutout go in now. And then when I give the signal, the stage managers will raise the six-pack.
On June 6, 1986, the Chicago Tribune printed an article about the Bottle Band written by Eric Zorn. As a result of this article, we were invited to perform live on the Jonathan Brandmeier Show on radio station WLUP. We have a tape recording of that performance, and this excerpt features Brandmeier playing Pop Goes the Weasel with us, and also his lively conversation with one of our members, Doris Phillips.
Okay. Hey, Doris, are you going to spend the whole day here? Huh? Okay, go ahead. Buzz, Doris moving in on me right now for the kill.
Pop Goes the Weasel, Doris. She doesn't even write music.
Doris, her head just dropped into the console. Doris, lift your head up. Here we go, ready? By the way, Doris, you won't be a member of the church after today. Doris, I'm Father Troy. I'd like to talk to you for a moment. Yeah. You've embarrassed our entire Lutheran faith. All right. Here we go. Okay. Right now, Martin Luther rolling over in his grave. All right. Here we go. It's hard to play when you're laughing, isn't it? Okay, now I'm playing the pop part, ladies and gentlemen. Watch me blow this. Whoops. Wait, first of all, let me say this. I'm doing it with my finger, and it's not easy. They're doing it with their mouth. Hold on a minute. See, can I do it a different way?
Not too deep.
That was nice. I'm what? She said my finger's in too deep.
I'm so embarrassed.
All right, Doris, go for the cheap laugh. Sure, Doris.
Should we take it from the top or what?
Doris, this isn't vaudeville like you used to work with the trained Gila monster, okay?
We also made an appearance on television in 1980 when Bob Wallace of Channel 2 News came out to St. Luke's and did a story on us.
You don't like returning empty bottles, don't. After seeing what Bob Wallace does with them, you may not want to bring them back.
This unusual musical aggregation is known as the St. Luke's Bottle Band. Their home base, St. Luke's Lutheran Church in Park Ridge. Each bottle is tuned by filling it to a certain level with water. More water for higher notes and less for the lower ones. The bottles provide background chords for the tunes, while kazoos provide the melody. Somehow, with a group like this, kazoos just seem appropriate. The St. Luke's Bottle Band was started 2 years ago by Paul Phillips, the band's director.
Well, we practice about once a week for about 4 weeks before we give a show. Then we replace bottles for about 6 months. Then we put on another show.
How do you go about emptying all the bottles? I mean, 'cause there's a lot of pop bottles here, but the base bottles, for instance, look like that'd be a lot of fun to empty.
It is. That's one of the benefits of being a member, that you get to
You get to empty the
take part in
bottles.
emptying the bottles, right.
Is it that much more difficult to play a bass bottle than it is for a,
Well, actually, it's the distance between each bottle that's more difficult.
for instance?
Well, if you have to move between 4 bottles, you have to move real fast
Oh,
this
yeah,
way, where
you
you
do.
have the smaller bottles, it's a shorter distance. It's hard on the teeth sometimes.
Do you chip teeth?
Well, it's just one of the hazards of the profession.
Give me some different notes here so we can hear the difference.
Okay, we've got an F,
Okay.
D, and a C.
They are different. Do you ever get confused as to which is which?
It has occurred on occasion. We try to disguise it.
How do we do this now? What's the technique involved?
Well, each bottle has a number.
Uh-huh. Okay, 1, 2, 3.
Right. And you follow the numbers on the score.
Uh-huh. That's a 1.
It's a 1.
I can't even get a note of it.
Pucker more.
Pucker more.
Over it.
Go over it.
I must admit, I doubt if the Lone Ranger would recognize his old theme song. With the St. Luke's Bottle Band in Park Ridge, this is Bob Wallace embarking upon a new musical career for Channel 2 News.
Very nice. Yes. John Coughlin was also liking that. He'll be around with a 5-day forecast in a minute.
Glenn, all successful musical organizations need to have a support group behind them to help raise money and provide moral support, and the Bottle Band is no exception to that. There's a group here at the church known as the Friends of the Bottle Band. Well, actually, there's still only one member, so it's technically the Friend of the Bottle Band. And the president and founder of that group is, of course, Craig Mullen, who's here now with us. Craig, can you tell us when it was that you began the Friend of the Bottle Band?
Well, Paul, it was back in 1982. As a matter of fact, I have some photographs here showing the activities and history of Friends of the Bottle Band over the years, and I'd like to show the audience them.
Oh, go right ahead.
Our first photograph shows the very first meeting of Friends of the Bottle Band. Frankly, I was disappointed at the low turnout at that first meeting, especially since Professor Phillips himself was on hand for the meeting and gave a very informative lecture concerning the mechanics of bottle music. And also because one of the principal activities in the early years of Friends of the Bottle Band was creating new instruments for the bottle band. And in order to gather the instruments, we also would go on field trips. Here I am on a collecting trip, hard at work. Another of the purposes of Friends of the Bottle Band was to raise money for the bottle band. And we used the various traditional methods of raising funds. Here we had a bike wash. And we also had a bake sale to raise money for the bottle band. We also had a marathon volleyball game with the youth choir, where I played against the entire youth choir team for 23 hours. And I'm proud to report that I was the winner. Here I am collecting my award from Professor Phillips. But we ran into a problem getting new members. Turnout was low, so we decided to start offering premiums for new members. The very first premium was the beautiful bottle band candelabra. And we used various premiums over the years. Here's another example, a bumper sticker. And another premium was this bottle band plunger. But unfortunately, these premiums did not increase membership a great deal, so we tried other means. And we hit upon one that I was sure was going to be a big winner. It was the home bottle band kit. And this kit was offered to new members so that they could take it home and have their family, even their children, learn bottle music at home. And they could even get their pets involved in bottle music. Unfortunately, this didn't work too well either, so we went on and used the premium known as the Amazing Mr. Bottle. It was very popular among children, but unfortunately did not bring in too many new members. Meanwhile, the group continued its efforts to raise money on behalf of the bottle band. Here I am in my bottle outfit, leaving the church to go and solicit money house to house. We did stir up a lot of interest, shall I say, in the group, but not a great deal of money. So we went to the traditional spot for raising money for worthy causes, the Park Ridge train station. Here in the photograph, you can see a bunch of people approaching me. We did manage to raise some money, but not a great deal. All of these efforts did not bring in any new members, but we did raise $1.39 in money for the bottle band. Unfortunately, it did not go very far, considering the rising price of new instruments. I would say that these early years of Friends of the Bottle Band have been difficult ones, but I'm sure that in the near future we will see better times. As a matter of fact, anybody in tonight's audience who wants to join Friends of the Bottle Band may do so, and if you join now, you will not only become a friend of the bottle band, you will also receive this handsome commemorative plate. Back in 1964, St. Luke's Church observed the 50th anniversary of its founding, and this plate was created for that occasion. We still have several hundred of them left over, so we've artfully modified it to make it into a 75th anniversary plate. And Glenn, in appreciation of your efforts over the years on behalf of the bottle band, we'd like to award you this handsome commemorative plate.
Thank you very much, Greg.
Thank you, Glenn.
Glenn, we really wanted Eunice Pork and Beans to be a part of our 10th anniversary program. And because she couldn't be with us in person, we had her videotape her part in Seattle. This is her performance of the Mozart Sonata in C from this year's Best of the Bottle Band concert. She hasn't been playing for a few years. She kind of went wild out really don't like to tamper with another artist's creative work. In this case, I feel obliged to do something, so we're just going to fast forward.
Glenn, the bottle band is, of course, available to play for weddings. The first wedding reception we ever played for was that of Sandy and Chuck Werner, who were both members of the bottle band. Here they are performing Pop Goes the Weasel. Sandy and Chuck were married here at St. Luke's in 1981, and they had their reception in Fox Hall. Two other bottle band members, Lori and Dick Hayden, were married in 1982 and also had their reception in Fox Hall. You know, bottle band rates are very low, and you can see how happy Lori and Dick are because they know they've saved a lot of money by hiring us. This is the wedding reception of Joyce and Kim Robinson, which was held at the Glenview Golf Club last year. Joyce is also a member of the bottle band, but I would like to point out that you don't have to be in the bottle band for us to play at your wedding.
Glenn, if I could, I'd like to take this opportunity to speak to the people watching the program tonight. If any of you out there are interested in hiring the bottle band to play at your wedding, please feel free to call the church office at 825-6659. That's 825-6659. The advantage to hiring the bottle band, of course, is that we would take care of all your musical needs for the day. You don't need to hire an organist and then a band for the reception. We would do everything in one package deal. I would like now to introduce to you our principal kazooist and lead vocalist, a person who's very important to us, especially in our wedding performances, Betty Sue Lou Fleming. Betty Sue Lou has been with the bottle band for a number of years now. Betty, tell us something about your career with the bottle band.
Well, you know, Paul, I feel very fortunate to be able to sing at weddings and receptions. Of course, they're my favorite because of all the free food and drink. In the past several years, I've sung at 12 weddings. Of course, 6 of them were my own. But I love singing at weddings because I can get so very, very emotional.
Nothing more than feelings, trying to forget my feelings of love. Teardrops
Well, tell me, Professor, you've been doing this for 10 years here now. What does the future hold? Where do you go from here?
Well, we've expanded over the past few years, and I think we'd like to expand even more. I have some pictures here of some of the other groups we've created here at St. Luke's. This is the St. Luke's Marching Bottle Band. These players have to be extremely skilled because it is quite difficult to march and not have the water in the bottle splash all over your uniform. Here we have the Youth Bottle Band. You know, Glenn, I believe it is very important to encourage the younger members of the congregation to develop their musical talents. And so I want to provide every opportunity I can for the children of St. Luke's to play in a bottle band. I know that some parents can't afford a violin or a trumpet for their child, but for the cost of a six-pack, they can get their son or daughter started in music. This is the high school bottle band. They, of course, prefer to play primarily rock bottle music. Some members of this group have even experimented with electric bottles, but so far this has not proved very successful. And you know, Glenn, sometimes their music gets so loud that their bottles actually break during a performance. Here is the older adults bottle band. Bottle playing is not as strenuous as playing other musical instruments, so people of all ages can be in bottle bands. This is Vi Steen on the right and Ellen Oberbillig on the left. As you can see, Mrs. O has quite an unusual embouchure. Here are two of my aunts attempting to play the contrabass bottles. These large bottles are very difficult to play, and if you're not careful, you can have your upper lip sucked into the mouth of the bottle. We also have a Suzuki bottle band here at St. Luke's. As I said earlier, I feel that early training is very important so that good bottle playing skills can be developed. One problem with these very young children, however, is that they frequently drool into their bottles and consequently they often play out of tune. Glenn, I would also like to expand the repertoire of the bottle band. This is the famous composer Johann Sebastian Bach. Bach had several children who were also composers, and I would like to feature some of their music in our next program. This is T.H. Bach. T.H. was a Baroque composer, but his music had a quite romantic flavor to it. After several years of struggle, T.H. eventually gave up his goal of being a composer to go into the ministry. T.H. had a younger brother, P.H. Bach. P.H. was an extremely intense man, and his music is made up almost entirely of 16th notes, making it very exciting to play. I certainly hope we can perform one of his pieces in the near future.
Thank you for coming here this evening for this interview, Professor.
Oh, thank you for asking me, Glenn. It's been my pleasure.
And now at this time, I think it only fitting that we close this program by showing you memorable moments from past bottle band shows.
much is that dog? If he has a dog, he won't be lonesome. And the doggy will have a good home. Oh,
because we like you.